Hello, and welcome back to Blaster Toad's Game Academy here on ToadNet. So today we start our second series of the Game Academy. This time we are working on a basic single-player shooter. And when I say basic, this is very basic, okay? So we are going to be going over in this series movement of the character. Let me actually just grab my cheat sheet here. So our shooter, we're going to be going over movement, creating the weapon, applying damage, making a UI to show our damage, or health, start menus, level selects, whatnot. Being able to make a configurable weapon. So this is going to be a big bit right there. That's actually where we're going to probably spend most of our time. Switching weapons, so picking up and switching between stuff, making trigger zones for end of levels, continuing on the story, whatnot, and then finally some very basic AI. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So as with all the Game Academy projects, we're going to start from a completely blank template and go from there, so that no matter where you pick up, you can come from nothing to full project all by yourself, no matter which of our videos you view. Or which of the series you view. Okay, that being said, as we progress through the Game Academy series, things are going to be getting more and more complex, so I do highly suggest starting at the beginning. Okay, now without further ado, let's get started. First thing we're going to do is set up our folders. So I like to have my core folder, and then we are going to have, under content, new folder, blueprints. Okay, and we're going to put core under blueprints. Move that there. Perfect. And then also under blueprints, we want to make our character, or let's call it player folder. Okay. So under our core, we're going to get a few things started. So we're going to right click in here. And the way I got this here is just clicking that nice little button there. We're going to right click here and blueprint class, all classes, and we are going to get a game mode. So we're going to grab our game mode base. And we're going to call this GM underscore Game Academy Shooter, if I could think to spell. Okay, so that just holds the place there, and then we're going to also blueprint class player controller and PC underscore GA shooter. There we go. You can name these as you wish. If you keep everything named as I do, though, it'll be easier to follow along. Just in case we're referencing back to other blueprints, we all know what we're talking about instead of having to remember your own naming. If you do wish to name it whatever you want to name it for yourself, go ahead and do so. Now, under our player, we are going to use a blueprint class. So again, right-clicking, selecting blueprint class, and we're going to use character. Because again, characters have a lot of stuff built into them. And we're going to call this our class player character. Okay. Open it up with a double click and compile and save. And our music in the background today is a channel called Crazy Language, and we're just running whatever playlist they're doing. Okay, so now that we got that set up, let's open up our edit menu here, project settings. Wait for that to load and maximize. And then in here, we want input. And this is where we're putting all our input triggers. So we are going to make an action mapping. So actions are binary, on and off. So these are our button inputs. Button inputs. So we're going to do a fire primary. So that'll be our shooting. We'll do a jump. Let's do a crouch as well. We'll do that in our movement stuff. And then under our axis mapping, we want to walk. And an axis is a, think of it like a linear slider from -1 to 1. Okay, and you can choose anything in between. It's a spectrum of numbers there. We're gonna press our little plus to do another thing here. We're going to do W for our keyboard, S on our keyboard again. S we're going to set up as -1. We are then going to get strafing. Again, press plus. Come on, there we go. And we want D to be our 1. And A to be our -1. Okay, so this is going to give us a value between 1 and -1. Of course, these are going to jump to the absolute values. If we were to, say, do a gamepad analog stick, as you move it further from center, it's going to move from 0 to 1 or 0 to -1 as you move it further off center. We're going to do 2 more axes maps. We're just going to add those in right here. We are going to do pitch. And this here, we're actually going to go under mouse and mouse Y. And yaw. And this is where we're going to do mouse and mouse X. Okay, so pitch is our looking up and down. Yaw is turning from side to side. If my audio sounds a little funny there, coming in and out, it is because as I'm saying side to side, I'm actually spinning in my chair and looking away from the mic, so sorry for that. Okay. Now let's open up our character. And we're going to do open full blueprint editor. There we go. And then, real quick thing we're going to do, we are going to go class settings here. Nope, sorry. Class character. Yes, class character, right there. And then in this side bit, we are going to get the controller pitch. So, tell it to use controller pitch. This is so we don't have to build our own camera pitch for the head. This will also make it easier for doing some animations later. Animations we might do as a stretch goal on this video, so we'll go how to set it all up by itself. Let's say, again, let's set our low target of, instead of 50, let's double it this time. If we reach 100 views on the first 2 videos in this series, then, so 100 views each on the first 2 videos, we'll do a stretch goal, and after finishing the core part of the series, I will do a tutorial on bringing in a character and doing a little bit of animation for it, okay? Because otherwise everything's just going to be blocks here. So that will be our stretch goal on this series. Okay. So in this case, we're going to get rid of all of these. We're not needing them right now. What we want to do is under event graphs. So this is really nice here. So we've got our event graph. We can start filling stuff in, and we can have our movement here, and our jumping over here, and our gun stuff here, and everything in one spot, but then we're moving all around trying to find stuff. To keep things nice and organized, under graphs, we can do new graph. And in new graph, we're going to do movement. There we go. Look how easy that is. And now we have our movement graph here. And now we can switch between core events, movement. We'll do this one as weapon handling, and so on and so forth. So we can keep things nice and contained, easy to find as we work on things. Let's go back to our movement. And we are going to get controller. And then get rotation. Get control rotation. There we go. Okay, and I am just right-clicking here and typing in the search box. So again, we're doing these videos so that anybody can jump in and join us at any point in the video. Okay. And then from this controller rotation, we are going to get forward vector, get right vector. Okay. And then we are going to start working with those inputs we just set up. So we're going to get walk. So axes event walk. If we grab axes value, that is not what we want. So we want the axes event walk. And we want the axes event strafe. Okay. And then we're going to select all this, just clicking and dragging, and move it to the side for now. We are then going to add movement input. That's what we want right there. Add movement input. Straighten that off. Add movement input. Straighten that off. And in here, actually this here, we are going to attach this. And we're going to split that pin. And detach this. And split the pin, okay? So since we are using the what am I wanting to say here? Since we're using the controller, which can move all over the place, say we're looking up, we do not want our controller is going to be looking up, so we start like looking up at a balcony or something like that. Okay, our controller will start looking up at the balcony. Okay, we do not want when we try to walk forward to be looking or trying to walk up, okay, if that's making sense. So we want just the Z rotation, okay? So just the rotation on, say, if you had a pin straight through the top of our character, we want to rotate them around that pin. So we're going to also split this here, and then we're going to bring in just the Z. And there we go. And we're going to come off here, scale value. We're going to put in our axes values. And then here we are going to put in our world direction. And we're just going to straighten this all up, make it look nice and pretty. Okay, so it's good and easy to read. There we are. And this is our... So we're going to select it all, hit C to comment. X, Y, movement. Okay. And then in brackets, I'm just going to comment this in as walking and strafing. And there we go. We're going to compile, save, and under add component, we are going to add a camera. Okay. And go back to our viewport, and with that camera selected, we are going to move it up to somewhere around the characters, where the character's head would be. Okay. And again, compile and save. And I'll minimize this here. So now if we bring our character out, and in this search box right here, we search for possess, and auto possess we set to 0. When we play, we're now in our character, and moving that way moves like that, and A and D move us sideways. So we have our strafing and walking. And there we go. Perfect. We'll open up our character again. Go to our movement graph. And let's make him spin around. Just gonna clean up this comment box so it's nice and tight on there. Okay, so we're going to now grab our two other events. We're going to grab pitch and yaw. Okay, and with the character, these add movement inputs and all this are preset up for us. It's all part of this character movement component. If we were to, instead of using a character, so if we right click and hit blueprint class and we're to use a pawn, then those events will not just, like using the add movement event like we have here, will not just make it walk. This is for the character class, or alternatively, if we added a pawn movement, the floating pawn movement, then it would also use those nodes. Okay, so just a side note there. Okay, so with our input pitch and input yaw, we're going to add controller pitch and add controller yaw. And just put in these axes values right like that. And we're gonna select all, comment, pitch, and yaw turning. And just tighten up that box a little bit. There we go. Compile, save, and now we're gonna come back here and hit play. We can look up and down and side to side. Okay? Take a look at that. Now, what you may be noticing, as if you're following along, is that your looking up and down is inverted. Okay? So when you pull your mouse down, you look up. When you push your mouse up, you look down. That may be your thing, it may not be. So what we're going to do in here is we are going to off pitch. So we're just going to pull this off some here, move that to the side, and then off our axes value here, we are going to multiply. Instead of typing out multiply, we're going to hit Shift 8 for our asterisk, which is multiplying, and float times float. Cat, stop scratching the chair. I slap you on the face. Sorry, just had to deal with my fuzzy feline friend. Okay. Straighten that off, and then off here, we're going to put this to a -1. Okay. And promote variable. And we're going to call this invert multiplier. Seriously, I will slap you again, Cat. Okay. So there we go. Straighten that off. Tidy up all of our stuff so it is nice and clean and easy to read. And now, with our input being multiplied by -1, and what we're going to do here also is, this is something I like to do for myself, is where it says play here, we're going to hit the little arrow right beside it and tell it to open in a new window. Okay? And look at that, it opens a new window right on top. So now, instead of having to always come back here, we can just hit this and it will open a new window right on top. And now that we're multiplying that by -1, when we pull our mouse down, we look down. When we push our mouse up, we look up. Okay? We could have also done that in project settings, input, and where we have pitch, we could change this to -1. Okay? But what this lets us do is, since we have this multiplier here, once we make some game settings, we can let the user choose whether or not they want their look inverted. So they can choose yes, and we'll set that to 1. They can choose no, do not invert the mouse, and we will set that to -1. Okay, so nice and easy that way. Okay, so there is basic movement. Let's add our jumping. So we're gonna bring our jump button. Okay, and we actually didn't set this up properly. So we're gonna go back to Edit, Project Settings, under Input, come on, open. And under jump, we are going to use spacebar. So spacebar right there. Fire primary, we're going to set as mouse left. And crouch, I'm going to set as control. Left control. Because that's how I like it. If you like it as C or whatever, you can set that to however you want it. Okay, so now that we got all those set, we can close that. So, jumping action. When pressed, we are going to jump right there. And this is how easy our player movement is. Like, that is it. All of the movement and the jumping is built into this character movement component right here. So we just have to tell it to do things. And then for our turning, we're rotating our controller. And that is why we started by going to our player class here and telling it to deal with the pitch as well as the yaw. So this way we can rotate the controller and it's going to follow that way. The reason we are rotating the controller instead of rotating the character or rotating the camera is, A, it's very simple to do, okay? That's the first thing. Like, look at how simple that is. Secondly is, when we use the pitch from the controller, it'll make some things easier when we animate in the future, okay? But the other thing is, this has a built-in 90-degree clamp, okay? So your view cannot look more than 90 degrees or less than -90 degrees, okay? So you've only can look in that area. Otherwise, if we just rotated the camera, we can rotate it all around. Actually, let's do that for a second. We are going to add rotation, so we're going to add local rotation to camera. So this is why, and then we're going to split that struck pin. We are going to break this link. So this is why we're doing the controller, and we're going to put this into pitch right there. Because if we were to rotate the camera, and we start looking down, and we look down, and oh, we just looked all the way through our feet. And if we look up, and we keep coming around, and whoa, okay? So we can do some nice fancy math to clamp it and only allow it to turn within certain angles. But instead of doing all that complex stuff, we're just going to rotate our controller. And it builds in that clamp so that we can look at the ground, can look up at the sky, but we cannot go all the way around. And that's the reason why we're doing things like this. Okay. And then jumping, actually jumping should now be set up, so boing, we've got jumping. Okay. And now for homework, because this is where we're going to leave the video, because we've got all our basic movement. Oh, maybe if I could say things. So under character movement, for homework, what you can play with is in here, we have jumping and falling, so how fast the character is launched when they're jump. Okay, so if you want a higher jump, we could set this higher. Okay, say we go from 420 to 600. Or if we don't want as high as a jump, we can lessen that. Okay. And then under character movement here, we have, okay, character movement walking. This is what I was looking for. We have our max walk speed. Okay, and walk speed when crouched. Okay, so we can set those separately. Next video, we'll be going over adding sprinting to our character so that we can run. And we're going to look at crouching, and that'll be our next video. So we'll see you then. Until that time, hey, you can move around a 3D world with your character and just figure out how you want to tune it. Maybe turn down the walk speed a bit so it doesn't feel like they're running and sliding everywhere. Yeah, there we go. That's a little nicer. Okay? Things like that. So go ahead, play with your character and the different movement stats you can set up in here. And we'll be coming back next video to set up a sprint system, and we will set up a actually, let's do sprinting with stamina. That will be more fun. So sprinting with stamina, and then we may get to crouching in the next video. That may be the video afterwards. So we'll see you then. If you've liked the video, please leave a like. It does add to my motivation to keep these things coming out. If you want to keep up to date with these videos, please subscribe and hit that notify button so you know when they're coming out. Okay, so we'll see you at the next video. Thank you for watching, and yeah, have fun building your game.